$38,000 counting different.
Oh, they're looking for business.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm going to mute this, gang. I think we're. I'm going to mute it, but Mr.
Hi, Sue.
Hello.
Hey. I meant to get in touch with you today. The phones are still a little touchy.
Okay. It was kind of a crazy day today.
They can hear us on the YouTube channel, so I guess we shouldn't
Okay.
have this conversation.
All right, I will I'll look into the phone.
Do we have everybody? Jeff? I'm ready when you are.
Okay, we have to do this, financial audit committee meeting.
Yep.
We'll do that now. Okay, Kristen? Okay. Let's see, we'll call a meeting to order. The committee members are all the board members. And the staff members present, you can fill that in, right, Kristen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We'll call the meeting to order of the Brookfield Central School Financial Audit Committee is called to order at 7 p.m. by me. Item number 2, discussion of financial statement audit June 30th, 2020. The financial statement audit for the year ending June 30th, 2020 was committed on.
What did you say?
June 30th? Or
Completed December 2020.
okay. Okay. Fire auditors there. Okay. Now, did you have a
Sure.
presentation?
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We'll be brief because in October I gave what I thought the year-end numbers were going to look like in a Board of Education meeting. And the year-end would be June 30th, 2020. And now that the audit is done, the numbers are exactly as I stated in October, which is highly unusual. I don't usually get it right. But so a quick summary in the general fund, which is the principal fund. Revenues exceeded expenses by $118,000. The key factors in why revenues exceeded expenses, because revenues were actually down about 50 grand, but our expenses were down too. And the key factors of why the expenses were down is one, lower debt payments on the new project than what we expected when we budgeted. A couple reasons behind that. One, we budgeted the numbers high because we hadn't sold the bonds yet, so we really didn't know what they were going to sell for. And then when we did sell the bonds, they came in at a lower interest rate than what we budgeted. So now going forward, these bonds are set for the next 17 years, so we'll be able to hit the nail exactly right on that particular debt. In addition, when we closed down in March, we saw significant savings in operating the building, and nobody was here, so there was savings from the COVID-related crisis. But there were some expenses, obviously, to offset that savings. We incurred additional expenses buying PPE and other type things in relation to the COVID pandemic. And then the one largest single item that expenses were down was we had purchased or budgeted for $60,000 to purchase a bus, And we did purchase that bus almost, as it was being delivered to us by the vendor on the way here. It got in an accident, was totaled. So we had 60,000 there to budget that we obviously couldn't spend because we didn't pay for it, we didn't get it. So they built us a new bus and it's here and all paid for, but that occurred now in the 2020-21 school year. So our expenses basically that we thought we were gonna spend 60,000 last year, now we spent that 60,000 this year. So this budget, just by doing the math, is already $60,000 in the hole. But over 2 years, it's the same. So that's it. Those are the big numbers. Couple comments the auditors had were that some invoices, some bills we pay before the Board of Education meeting approves the payment of those invoices, and we've been doing that for 20 years. And the reason is to avoid late payments and charges. But also they look at all those expenses and they didn't find anything wrong with any of them other than we just make the payment a little early to ultimately save us money. The second comment that they had was our fund balance is greater than 4%. And the way things are looking this year, that probably, unfortunately, may not be a problem next year. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a resolution when we go to the regular Board of Education meeting, accepting the financial statement and the audit, and accepting the corrective action plan. Any questions or comments from anybody on the audit committee? Super, thank you.
Okay, next order of business is adjournment. Resolved the board adjourned on January 27th, 2021 audit committee meeting at 7:05. Motion?
I make a motion.
Don made a motion, second.
Second,
Valerie is seconded.
Dawn.
Don, okay. Don seconded. Discussion? No discussion. We'll vote. All those in favor, so signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried. All right, now we move on to the regular meeting. Okay, January 27th, 2021, regular meeting, Board of Education called to order at 7:06. By me, okay, consent agenda, resolve the Board of Education approve the consent agenda consisting of approval of warrants, minutes, budget status report. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
John has made the motion, second.
Second,
Don is seconded. Discussion? No discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? So carried. Next is communication reports and announcements. Additions or amendments to the agenda. Resolve the Board of Education approve the agenda for the January 27th, 2021 meeting as presented or amended. Have motion.
Make a motion.
Don made a motion, second.
second,
Don is seconded. Discussion? We do need an executive session, I believe, it's for personnel
For contract negotiations.
contract, okay? Alrighty, if there's no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, so carried. Now, board, communications board president, none. Communications of the principal. I didn't see any letter from her, no.
She's not on right now.
Okay. Communication of our district clerk,
I have none.
none. Okay, communication of our superintendent.
So, thank you, Bernie. What Carrie would say right now is she wants to thank all the parents and everybody who's trying so hard to make this remote learning work. Many students are doing very, very well, but some students are trying hard, but struggling, and we know it's difficult, but please hang in there. And what's most important is attend classes. It's the students who are not doing well at all are the ones who are not attending classes. So we need everybody to work together to get the students to sign on and attend classes. It's not just a Brookfield problem, it's a nationwide problem. But maybe hopefully we can, it's a very small group, but we need them to try harder, please. So moving on, my communications. First, there was a federal stimulus act passed near the end of December, and we really have little information on that federal stimulus act as it relates to individual school districts. The one thing that we are starting to see is in the governor's executive budget proposal, it looks like he's included monies that would have been passed on to school districts, and as he did last year, he's grabbed that money, and we're hoping that he doesn't grab all of it. And when I say he grabs it, what he essentially does is he recognizes in his budget how much the school districts are going to get through this federal stimulus program, and then he inserts in his budget a line item that reduces our state aid by that amount. So that's what he did last year, and to be honest with you, that happened way back in the early 2000s with Governor Patterson. But we really need to have some of this money unencumbered and passed through to the school district so that we can deal with all these additional expenses that we have as a result of this pandemic. So that battle goes on. In your packet is the proposed budget calendar for the 2020-21 school year, and there'll be a resolution later to approve that. So if everybody had a chance to look at that, and when we get there, if there's any conflicts, we can change that calendar accordingly. Also coming up is a resolution to approve our participation in the electric consortium bid. We're a member of the New York State Municipal Electric Consortium, which has over 700 members, and that's where we purchase our electricity through that consortium. So there's going to be a resolution authorizing that. Okay, other than what's, okay, no, I do have this. At the bottom of my memo, you can see some important dates there: the BOCES annual meeting, the BOCES administrative budget vote, and then our budget vote and the annual Board of Education election. That's just reminder numbers. I think that at least on the two BOCES, that'll obviously be virtual at this point. Those are early April. There's no way that you're going to put 150 people in a room in BOCES for an annual meeting again this year. Moving on. Any questions or comments at this point from the board members? Okay. I should have added, and I apologize for not doing so. There are some people, this is being live streamed, and there are some people out there watching. So if anybody has any questions, please email them to me. It would be jplows@brookfieldcsd.org. jplows@brookfieldcsd.org. So go ahead and email your questions, and then when we get to the resident public participation part, I'll access my email, see if there's anything there, and we'll go from there. So next. In the board's packet, you have a memo from me that I completed this afternoon. And this memo deals with high-risk interscholastic sports. And probably most people are aware of this. I'll just summarize it real quick, but near the end of last week, Governor Cuomo announced that school districts could begin participating in high-risk interscholastic sports with the approval of the local health department. And high-risk interscholastic sports, as they pertain to Brookfield, would be girls and boys basketball and girls volleyball. So the governor announced that, and the New York State Department of Health had already issued a long time ago some interim guidance related to sports and recreation during the pandemic. On Monday, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association updated guidance that they had previously issued and issued a document titled Return to Interscholastic Athletics on Monday, this Monday. Section 3 had meetings, and Section 3 then established sports seasons for the remainder of this school year. The sports season being the winter season, which would run from the 1st of February until March 13th. A spring season for spring sports, which would run from March 1st to April 30th. And then a fall 2 seasons for school districts that did not participate in the fall season last year. The fall 2 season would run from April 19th through mid-June. They may have opened that up also to school districts that did participate in sports last fall, because I believe maybe a lot of them weren't able to complete their season. I'm not really sure on that. So anyways, we would fall into this fall 2 season if we're able to do it. So essentially what the governor did is he got this headache off his desk and passed it on down to the rest of us. Any questions so far? Okay. So beginning at the end of last week, I believe, and then continuing on this week, the Central County League's athletic directors have met a couple times. The Central County League superintendents, we're in Central County League. We have met, and we're going to meet again tomorrow morning. The Madison County, the superintendents of all the districts in Madison County have met with the Madison County Department of Health. The United Hooker Madison, both these component school district superintendents have met with the United County Department of Health. And the United County superintendents, including the ones in our BOCES and myself, have met three times now. There was another meeting earlier today. And our BCS, we put a committee together to look at this, and we have met. So where are we? These meetings, and I think it's important that we had these meetings. I think in total, there was easily more than 30 superintendents that have participated in these meetings over the past 2 or 3 days. And most everybody has weighed in on the conversation, and it's been a real thorough discussion. It's been a very time-consuming conversation, and it should be. This is important. It's taken many hours of meetings, and I think one superintendent at the end of the meeting yesterday summed it up pretty well, and that because we go off on a lot of different tangents. We're all in the same business. We're all in the same industry. We're all in the industry of educating our students, but we're all unique. We have our own business uniqueness. And one superintendent kind of stated that and said, but it's important for us to kick these decisions around, and it's been a very windy road that we've been going down the past several days, but it's important that we go down that road to make sure that we consider all the factors. So it would take, I couldn't even recall, if I went and grabbed all my notes, I'm sure I didn't get everything down. I know I didn't, but there are so many factors involved. There's no way I got them all down. And factors that may be important in another school district may not even be of any significance here, and vice versa. But I narrowed it down into what I thought was the most significant factors. And the most significant factors that I think I heard over the past few days is that the superintendents of schools, myself included, are frustrated and have not been explained how there can be such significant inconsistencies between the health and safety requirements that we need to follow during the school day. And then once 3 p.m. arrives, these requirements can be loosened up and not followed. They're the same students before 3 o'clock as they are after 3 o'clock. Another factor, significant factor that has been discussed and pointed out by the health departments is that youth sports have become and have been documented as a significant contributor to the spread of COVID-19. Now, that may not be true for some teams, and it's fortunate that some teams, or maybe many teams even, have been able to avoid this virus in the youth recreational sports that go on out there currently or have gone on. But I believe the CDC stated that youth sports have been the 7th largest contributor of the spread of the virus in our country. The other significant factor that is what I'm considering significant is when we went through the guidance, the logistics involved of, say, pulling off a basketball game. And this is different than an event that would occur outside, but having a basketball game in a gymnasium, even when you have strict limitations on who can come into the gym, it's a logistical nightmare. I'm not sure we could surmount all the logistics. I'm sure we would try if that's the path we go down, but I'm not sure we could pull it off every single time. Two things that are not in my memo, one that I think is significant, that developed late today, was in a meeting with United County Department of Health and the United County Executive. They talked about where the local health department would have to review and approve plans developed by the school districts to participate in high-risk athletics. And what they said was, at this time, they really weren't inclined to approve any of those plans. So later today, I would say around midday, the United County Executive issued his position to the press as a result of the meetings that we had with him through Idaho or Madison BOCES. And I believe that's probably either on like a WKTV website, or Oneida County website, or maybe a Utica OD. But the essence of his statement was, school districts should not be participating in high-risk activities at this time. So there we are so far, and I have 2 more sections to my memo, but I'm just going to pause and ask if there's any questions or comments at this point in time. Okay. So moving on to the next section of my memo. We've been here before. We talked about this in late fall last year as we were looking at winter sports. And now we are here again with updated guidance. We definitely have more experience related to this virus. And more knowledge. But there's some things I think we need to avoid. I think and it's hard. This is a very a subject that means a lot to all of us. What I saw in the meetings over the past couple of days was frequently references to a lot of emotions and concerns about political pressure and concerns about pressure altogether. And I don't think that, I understand it, I get it. But I feel bad for some of my colleagues who are really, really in a bad position right now because of that. I also want to say, and this came up in our committee meeting today as we looked at going forward. Ms. Smith quoted me from what I said last week. And what I said last week that she referred back to was, I said, I didn't understand when it became acceptable for school districts to participate in, to allow their students to participate in high-risk activities. We have seen proposals, have proposals come to us in the past over the years where students wanted to do A, B, or C. I don't know, think of something, whitewater kayaking. And we just said, no, whitewater kayaking is an example of something that we would not approve. Now, we would approve a regular old kayaking trip with proper safety measures, but we would not approve a whitewater kayaking trip because a whitewater kayaking trip would be a high-risk activity, and that's just not acceptable to us. And be quite frankly, I think approving an activity like that does not comply with the legal standard of reasonable care that we're held to. So Ms. Smith pointed that out to me again today. And that was something I said last week. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier, and I should have, was no one knows the impact of the new variants that are occurring in our country right now of this virus. And both health departments did refer to that. And these health departments were in separate meetings. And both health departments said, ironically, they said the exact same thing. They have no information that that variant is here right now, but it most likely will be if it isn't. But they also have no way of telling. Apparently, in some of these tests that are done, the state has a way of telling, but both health departments indicated they weren't confident that the state would pass that information on to them. And both health departments are concerned about the impact of any of these variants that are out there once they come to town. And it isn't in New York State, and it may be here. We just don't know that. All right. So after thinking about this a lot and visiting with a lot of people on it, I agree, the rest of the administrative team agrees that if we can put something together for schools, for students to be involved in extracurricular activities, athletics, physical fitness, at the end of the school day, we should. In fact, we should endeavor to put together some program like that, not only for the physical health benefits, but for the mental health benefits to our students. But we're not willing to cross the threshold to design or allow for high-risk activities. And I think after all the conversations of the past few days, I go right back to 2 points that solidified it for me. In the meeting with the Madison County Department of Health, with all the Madison County superintendents in attendance, Madison County Department of Health representative was asked, is playing high-risk sports in the interest of public health right now? So is playing high-risk sports in the interest of public health right now? The answer was immediate. In my opinion, no. So I heard that. I think the other superintendents did too. Later in the day, I'm in a meeting with the Oneida County Department of Health, and a Oneida County Department of Health representative was asked, as we were talking about high-risk activities, high-risk sports, the superintendent asked Oneida County Department of Health representative this question: what are the health department's thoughts? And this was in the context of high-risk athletics. What are the health department's thoughts? The answer was, participating in any high-risk activities is not a good idea. Participating in high-risk activities is not a good idea. So I gotta be honest with everybody. When I heard those 2 answers, if I had any doubt, I no longer did. Because I said to myself, these are the health professionals. And if they're stating it, and that as a superintendent of school, I don't follow that advice, maybe I shouldn't be a superintendent of schools. So, in our committee, BCS committee meeting today, we said, what can we do? So, I best read it or I'll mess it up. From my memo, I'm saying, accordingly, in the interest of student health, physical and mental, I believe BCS should immediately focus on implementing athletic activities that are not considered high risk. I believe we should focus on athletic activities that are more likely to be safely implemented and have a greater chance of being sustainable given the constant changing health conditions. Accordingly, today I appointed a committee, to begin this process and report back to me on Monday, February 1. Continuing. Once we design and implement this program, we will consider the current public health environment and will begin applying our knowledge to other activities as we move to construct a more normal pre-K through 12 educational experience for our students. So what is an example of what I just said? One, our phys ed department and our athletic director have already developed a list of potential activities that we should explore, and they have been exploring them. Now they're going to ramp that up and report back to me on Monday, report back to the committee. Two, what else was in that statement was, if we put this together and pull it off, then we have to take what we learned from this experience and see if we can apply it to other extracurricular activities for our students. Possibly something in the arts, whether it be music, band, etc., or any place else, as we try to provide a more well-rounded experience for our students that has been significantly negatively impacted through this pandemic. So in conclusion, there's nothing better that I would like to see than our teams out on that basketball court and volleyball courts. But I just can't go there. And I'll be very surprised if the remaining superintendents can. Okay, I think it's time for me to pause and let the board provide any input they want. And we can discuss it. And I think, somewhere in my memo, I did say that. I think discussion is good. I think we should discuss it. Because we all are on the same team. I know we all want the same thing. And we all look at it differently. We have to. We all have different backgrounds. We all come from a different place. So as one of my old business partners used to say, and I've quoted it before at board meetings, and it's not meant as a negative in any way. Maybe it's injected a little bit of humor into a difficult conversation, but he always said to me, two heads are better than one, even if they're cabbage heads. So if anybody wants to weigh in on anything I've said, please do.
By looking at what they have stated is what the seasons, the dates for the seasons. No, I'm just saying what they gave you for the dates for the winter season and the spring season.
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably going to be going 2 seasons without any sports. Because that last time I knew, we're still trying to get snow off the field at the end of April.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I personally, I understand the health aspect of it, but you know, the CCL league and a bunch of other leagues in New York State said no fall sports, which include a lot of soccer. But then you have these sports complex around here where teams can pay to go and join a league there. And I know a local sports complex up in Utica, even though the CCL league said no fall sports, they had 3 different teams from the CCL league took teams up there to play, you know, because they wanted to play sports. Yes, there was a couple instances with they had to reschedule games or something because a kid got COVID or something on the team, or there was a quarantine thing. But you know, it just, I don't know, sports things a little, you know, some of it's emotions too. I think the kids need to be playing. I mean, a lot of kids are just sitting home. They're not getting any athletic. you know, any exercise or anything like that. I mean, I just, you know, and then you see, and I know it's a different level, and a lot of the colleges can afford the cost that probably involved with the protection to the students. But, you know, you see all these other teams, you know, colleges making a go of it. Yes, their scheduling must be crazy because they do have issues with players getting COVID and stuff, but, you know, and I understand the aspect about the, you know, the health and the safety for the kids, but with that being said, I think the emotional and the physical health is getting hurt in this too. So that's just my opinion on it.
I think, in regards to the emotions and the mental health and the physical health, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that's why I think it's important that we do our best to put something together for these students. Looking at the seasons. The winter season says February 1. We would not be able to start anything until February 8th. The guidance is clear on that. And then I think there's 6 or 7 days of practice. And I really don't, I'll be honest with you, there aren't going to be many teams to play.
Mm-hmm.
One idea that we talked about today in our committee meeting was on the list that our phys ed teachers and our athletic director has compiled. Let's look at starting skill development and physical conditioning for the spring season sports. And I'm not so sure on that spring season sports that that's locked in stone. For the exact reason that you said. How often it has occurred, we have got on the softball or baseball field in March, but not very often. It's more like towards the end of April sometimes. But maybe those types of sports that are considered moderate or low risk, where you can more easily social distance than a high risk sport. Maybe we can get those activities going inside right now. We do in the course of the school day, when the students are in the building, we run physical education classes where the students are 12 feet apart and where the gymnasium is sanitized after every class leaves. And they have been pretty successful. I mean, we have had no transmission or anything go on in that gymnasium. So if we can take what we've learned from physical education classes, bring that knowledge and with a 12-foot distancing, maybe we can run some type of athletic practices focusing on skill development for spring sports starting now. In regards to what you said about the recreation sports that are occurring in the region, that is a huge frustration amongst superintendents and athletic directors and coaches. And where we ask, and we've asked the county executive, and we've asked the Madison County Department of Health, how can you allow this to go on when you wouldn't allow us for winter sports? How is it safe for those places to be operating when it's not safe for us? And the reply basically is they, one, didn't have either a mechanism to stop them, but they also said it's not safe. And now these are my words.
Mhm.
The teams that have not had an outbreak have simply been lucky. Because one superintendent did say, whatever they're doing at those complexes, we know we can do better. But even us being able to do it better is not good enough. And he was expressing his frustration with it. These complexes are definitely near his school district. And to be honest, we don't get it. And I think it's a loophole, and I think it's a loophole that either should have been shut down, or they should have changed what we were required to do. However, I will say what we're required to do is, from the public health perspective, trying to set all emotions aside. And believe me, the emotions have run pretty darn high in these meetings the last couple of days.
Right, and I mean, the thing of it is these complexes are doing, you know, they are doing, trying to keep it as safe as possible. I mean, most of the complexes that I've been to for my daughters that are playing these, actually, you know, there's no fans. The kids are, temperatures are checked before they go in. Whatever teams are playing in the complex at that time, they exit out a different door than they go in. And the new teams coming in can't go in until the old teams are out, you know, so they're trying to do that part. But, you know, you're still gonna, but that being said, there's teams from all over the state that come there. So it's, so my thing is you've got, you know, Brookfield students, this small little area, and we can't have sports, but you got these other places that can have sports. And there, when they had a tournament, there was teams coming from Albany to come play here because nothing was going on in that area at the time. You know, so, you know, it's just, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
You know, because, and the thing of it is not, you know, you have students out there in all the schools around that are depending on possibly getting a scholarship to go to college, and they can't even play their sport to show the college coach that they can play.
Yep.
Or, you know, and, you know, in my case, I can't go in and videotape my daughter playing soccer, you know, because of the restrictions. I'm glad she's playing,
Yep.
but I can't videotape my daughter so that you can take a video to a college coach or something, you know?
Yep.
So it's frustrating. And, you know, some of my, I guess some of my being upset about this is, some of it's emotional, but some of it is, I think that, you know, with the right precautions, that we can have winter sports. Yes, it'd be a lot of work. And yes, there is the chance that a kid's gonna come down with, you know, possibly come down with COVID. And yeah, but you know, I don't know, I feel that our lives are getting locked down because of this. And I think it's really, the kids' lives are getting locked down from this. You know, and I think it's really affecting the kids. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, you're not. I think we need to kick it around, and I think anybody that wants to weigh in should weigh in.
Is there any,
But,
you were gonna say something?
so I have said to myself more than once, I wonder if I would have a different perspective if this occurred when my sons were in high school and playing sports. And because at this point in time, I wear one hat, but if it occurred when my sons were in school, I would have two hats on. And at the beginning of the day, I'd have to take that one hat off and put another one on. But I've asked myself, how much would that have influenced my decision-making process if this occurred back then? I can't answer that question. Unless I experienced it, I can't answer it. It was a very, very emotional and difficult, even a more emotional and difficult decision than it is right now. I won't deny it for a second. I actually had a visit with one of my sons about it this weekend. So I really don't know where I'd land on it from a parent perspective. I think from the superintendent perspective, it'd be hard, but I would have to land in the same place that I am right now. In regards to going back to these complexes, we also have to keep in mind youth sports, as you described, is the 7th largest contributor of the spread of this virus today. Now, what percentage that is, I don't know, but it's in the top 10. It's number 7. And then I have to go back to the 2 responses from the Madison County Department of Health representative and the Marion County Department of Health representative. Bernie, you got something?
Is there any, Sean, is there any report or anything of these kids playing up in these complexes ever getting any, how many of them have gotten this?
Oh, gotten COVID?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there was, and I'm speaking from my daughter playing up there. There was a few times that games were delayed because of a team member on the other team got COVID, so they had to reschedule games. And actually, the team she was playing on, one of their players came down with COVID. So, my daughter was interviewed, whether she was around that person and that type of stuff. And luckily she wasn't, and those are risks you take. And I understand that. And I guess I understand that from the school end that we're here to protect our students and everything. But there's, right now we're way over here protecting them from a virus, and we're doing nothing over here about protecting them from emotional, physical, and mental. I mean, I'm not saying nothing, but we're more over here on the virus than we are over here. And on top of it, and this is the difference of it, I think that, this is going away from sports, but I think also this whole virtual thing, yes, some kids are thriving with it, but there's also kids not being in school is not good for them, but that's a whole different subject we can have later tonight if we want to, but, but I totally understand about the whole, we have to protect the kids from the COVID, and but I just think that I know that there's a lot of kids out there that want to get back playing sports. And I know that probably there will be kids that will, if say the schools do not play basketball and these sports complex opens up basketball leagues because they're allowed, because the governor said go ahead, and they get through the local like they did with the soccer and the other things they're doing. I'm sure there's going to be basketball leagues up there, and I'm sure, there'll be kids, whether it's our school district or other schools, they'll play on teams up there, and that's their choice and that's their right,
I don't know.
But that, what hurts there is what is that kid that really wants to play basketball and loves basketball, but can't get to that sports complex to play because that's their only avenue to play sports right now. Because number one, transportation, or number two, the cost. It just, I don't know. But I understand that there's a lot, by putting a team out on that basketball court, we are putting a lot of risk of people, whether it's the fans or the players, getting COVID. I know we up the risk down, but I don't know. It's a little frustrating, but I understand both sides of it.
Okay, explain this. Okay, you got a team, how many on a soccer team?
11.
11, okay. One student in 11 comes down with this COVID or whatever, is exposed to it. But wouldn't all of the 11 kids have to be quarantined?
Yeah, if they're in contact with them, yes. Yep.
So you said, some of the kids that had been down with it, but there's still, this complex is still open, right?
Right. Well, And yeah, and I don't know, that's something with the whole health department and, you know, how they do their contact tracing and that type of stuff. I guess, I don't know how that all works, you know?
Okay,
Well, I know, I'll just tell you, and I'll put this out there. In the case of my daughter, the student that she was playing with, that came down with it, when my daughter did the interview, she hadn't played with that student within, I think the student hadn't been to any games and the student hadn't been to any practices for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So the health department, who, you know, whatever, the person that interviewed her felt that my daughter was fine and didn't have to quarantine based on the science of all of this.
That wouldn't be the same situation like here.
What are you asking there?
That wouldn't be the scenario that he's telling about. It wouldn't be the same situation here.
Oh, it would.
It would. So ironically, I did the contact tracing on Sean's daughter.
Right.
So I interviewed Sean's daughter and she had not been in contact with the person while that person was contagious. So another, that did work its way back to Brookfield School through another student, but who had been in contact while that player was contagious. So
What would be the restrictions as far as, if you had a played basketball here, as far as spectators? They'd have to have their temperature checked, and they'd have to set 6 feet apart, is it night?
I don't think you'd see spectators. I haven't heard any school everybody that I've heard that's even mentioned spectators said we are not allowing them. If we're ever able to pull this off, we wouldn't allow spectators. Now, if you go to the guidance from the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, they would say two spectators per athlete. They would have to set, family groups would have to set 6 feet apart minimum. Ironically, I think that 6 feet really wouldn't apply because once you get people, they have to have masks on. But once people start cheering and clapping, the aerosol goes more than 6 feet. So the 6 feet rule, I don't believe would apply. The guidance says it does. I think it's wrong because it's been explained. I mean, when people start becoming more vocal, the aerosol goes more than 6 feet.
Okay. Well, I've seen quite a lot of it, a lot more than I wanted to, on TV. My wife is an avid sports. And they'd be setting, these college games, they're setting 6 feet apart to watch the games in the bleachers. Okay. But what if, in another scenario is, maybe I shouldn't say this, but what if you canvass the kids that are eligible to play and got permission from the parents for them to play?
I don't see how, although you will find somebody in New York State Public High School Athletic Association who would make that argument, saying that the reason that we loosen up the requirements after 3 p.m. is because the students can say, I'm willing to take the risk. They don't have to be there. I'm willing to take the risk.
You know,
My response would be,
on school property?
no, my response would be, have you ever been in a classroom, sir? Have you ever worked in a school building for very long? Do you understand what peer pressure is? Over the years, you have to deal with peer pressure and do your best to, as a school district, minimize that peer pressure. And here at Brookfield, we see that from time to time with sports when it comes to sports signups. Simply don't play this sport, play this sport, or we won't have enough kids for a team. And take that peer pressure that we have seen here in this school district and just modify it exponentially in the scenario where we would, what that you just described, exponentially. And that wouldn't be, okay, so we can't have volleyball because some players talk some volleyball players into playing basketball. It would be a player given in the peer pressure and playing a sport when they didn't think it was safe.
Yeah. I had to give up the trumpet so I could play football. Best decision I ever made.
Yeah, I read that. I did read that in some guidance somewhere. Is that, well, they don't have to be there. They're volunteering to be there. They're willing to be there. So we can put them at a higher level of risk. If that's the bar we set for running public education, we got a bleak future ahead of us. But
The rate we're going, we're not gonna see these kids back to school, all of them full time this year.
nobody's crystal ball is too good on that one, that's for sure. When you get a substantial majority of people vaccinated, then it'll take that to turn the corner. But maybe school districts can turn the corner sooner because of all the safety precautions we do have in place. So Sean, I want to go back to, you mentioned, and I agree with you, and you said it exactly right. You kind of gave us a spectrum there, and on the left is the academics and those type of things that we're doing for kids, but over here is we're not, and you said it, but then you said, well, I don't mean anything. But you said we're not doing anything for physical education and the mental health and that. And I get it, you were just, but that's why this proposal says our risk is too much risk. Well, what can we do to take this mental health side and this physical health side? What activities can we involve these students in to bring that closer to the middle? And that's what this proposal does. Basketball is my favorite sport. It's the one I like to watch most. It's the one I like to play most. But I don't think we can go there. But on Monday, I'm confident that I'm going to be presented with a list of places we can go to take exactly what you said and do our best to move that more to the middle.
Anybody else?
Let me just check my phone here for a second.
Yep.
Okay, it looks like, let's just check emails for a second. Okay, nothing there. Okay. So I need to look around on the screen there, and I want to be sure before we leave this that if any school board member wants to weigh in, that they're given that opportunity. So I'm gonna start on the left-hand side of my screen, and you can just give me a thumbs up or whatever. So on the left-hand side of my screen is Valerie. Are you good, or do you have any questions, comments? Okay, I'm thinking Valerie's good. Moving across my screen a little. Okay, thank you. Moving across my screen a little more is Dawn. Are we good, Dawn? Or okay, thank you very much. Moving down, Jeff, are we good? Okay, thank you. Sean, thank you. I appreciate you giving the input. I really wish this was something we could do, but we're gonna figure something out.
No.
All right, looking at my report, that was the last item on it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, next order of business, resident participation. None?
So I do not have any emails here from anybody.
Okay, old business, new business. Okay, and now we have approval of resolution authorizing participation in cooperative energy purchasing service for electricity. This is the one we do every year. It's like a co-op.
Yeah.
For electricity, is that right?
That's correct.
So everybody's read that. Resolution to take effect immediately. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Don made the motion, second.
second,
Don seconded. Discussion? No discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Next is approval of financial statements, audits 2019, 2020 result of the Board of Education upon the recommendation of superintendent approves the 2019, 2020 financial status statements audit as completed by our auditors there. Have motion.
Make a motion.
John made a motion, second.
second,
Don seconded. Discussion? No discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? So carried. Approval of district corrective action plan. Resolve the Board of Education, by recommendation of the superintendent approves the corrective action plan for the June 30th, 2020 financial audit as attached. Have motion.
Make a motion.
Don made a motion, second.
second,
Don is seconded. Discussion. No discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Approval of budget calendar. Resolved the Board of Education, by recommendation superintendent approves the budget calendar for the 2021 school budget vote and election as attached. Have motion.
Make a motion.
Don made motion, second.
second,
Don is seconded. Discussion.
So this calendar has our first budget presentation on February 24th. And then the budget hearing would be on May 4th. And the budget vote would be on May 18th. Last year, if you recall, we had to do the budget vote by absentee ballot. So we won't know what to expect until we get closer to that date, that's for sure.
Okay. No further discussion. We'll vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? So carried. Compensation for instructional substitute. Resolved the Board of Education on recommendation of superintendent approves the compensation for the instructional substitute teachers shall be set as follows for the 2020-21 fiscal year. Certified $100 per day and non-certified $95 per day. Have motion.
Make a motion.
Don made a motion, second.
second,
Don is seconded. Discussion.
We had to increase the non-certified rate in order to be in compliance with the minimum wage laws that changed on December 31st.
Okay. No further discussion. We'll vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? So carried. Compensation for instructional substitute teachers and assistant. Resolved the Board of Education My recommendation, superintendent approves the compensation for instructional substitute teachers and assistants to be set at $90 per day for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. A motion?
Make a motion.
John made motion, second.
second,
Don is second, the discussion?
Same answer.
No discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Next order of business, executive session. Resolve the Board of Education to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing contract at 8:08, 8:09, it just clicked, 8:09. A motion?
Make motion.
Don made a motion, second.
second,
Don is seconded, discussion? No discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried.
Okay, Mrs. Peavy and Krista, thanks for organizing that. Krista, can you remember to email that electric consortium resolution?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you very much. Sue, if you want to start